We're going into standing committee. Standing. Not sitting, standing. Thank you. Thank you. Duly noted. Somebody got y'all a pick. All right. So first up, we are going to have Senator Kim Jackson. Do you need a minute to look over? All right, I'm going to go out of order here. Senator Hatchett, are you in the room? Senator Hatchett, if you will go to the podium and go over SB 259. Committee members, you have your summaries in your envelopes or whatever you call them, manila folders. If you need a copy of the bill, it is on the table. We can get that for you. But for sake of time, we kind of ran out of it. So, Senator Hatchett,
Thank you.
Go for it.
Senate Bill 259 is a simple bill that moves Banks County from the Piedmont Judicial Circuit into the Mountain Judicial Circuit. We went through the Judicial Workload Assessment Committee. We did a feasibility study or a boundary study. Everything's good. Jackson and Barrow right now are the two fastest growing counties in the state. Banks County makes up about 10% of the caseload in the Piedmont Judicial Circuit. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, we have any questions from the committee? All right, I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Opposed.
Okay, I've got one no, Senator again. The rest in favor. All right, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That'll be reported out of committee tomorrow, second read on Thursday. Okay, let's go with Senator Kennedy, SB 272.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to thank the chair for putting this bill on for the standing committee today to be heard. So last year, the Senate and the House passed SB 441 in an effort to address the growing problems with the state's criminal record systems. The entire Senate signed on to the bill, making it a priority for this chamber, and I think we all appreciate Senator Hatchett's work in successfully carrying the legislation and for the governor signing it. This year, SB 272, which is before you, is a cleanup to that and an update to last year's bill in light of the work of the board that SB 441 created in that bill. This bill, 272, moves the Criminal Case Data Exchange Board from under the Clerk's Counsel Office and places it with the Administrative Office of Courts. The board has done great work, but the reality of last year is that the political expediency in order to get something done was the basis of the Clerk's Counsel getting the board. This is a judicial matter as a whole, and we believe that the AOC, Administrative Office of Courts, would be the better administrator of this board that's been created. Additionally, the bill empowers each councils, like the Superior Courts and the state courts, to train their members on uniform standards that the board creates. Finally, we've included a duty of the board that it review the feasibility of tracking criminal history data related to recidivism, something this state has struggled with for a long time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, do we have any questions for our bill sponsor? We've got a question here from my secretary, Calzert. Number five.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a copy of the bill. I just got the summary. But what is the expansion of the duties of the district administrative judges?
Where did James go? James, come here.
James,
What
you wanna
section
go?
is that? Chairman Counselor, he said, what is expansion of the duties?
Let's see. I was just reading the summary. I didn't have a copy of the bill.
The gist of it is it allows them to work with any clerks, or excuse me, any courts within
James,
your.
go to the
Yeah,
podium, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Introduce yourself, please.
Yes, sir. James Beal with the
Bill.
Pro Tem's office, General Counsel.
I got, he handed me one.
So the basis for that is that there's a district, each district has an administrative judge, and they can assist all of the classes of courts within that circuit with administering various administrative duties. And so part of that would be, setting through these uniform standards, seeing those administered.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right. What's the will of the committee? Got a motion do pass from Chairman Albers, second from my vice chairman. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Senator, again, my vice chairman got me a good old joint resolution,
Yes, sir, Mr.
SR 214. Shoot it to us straight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I don't care where you live in Georgia, but you pay taxes to at least one local government, maybe two. You might pay taxes to a city and a county. Unfortunately, on a lot of issues that we try to get the best for the taxpayers when they go out here and have discussions and then sometimes arguments and then sometimes some litigation on service delivery strategies and what's going on with sales tax money. So in order to try to put some of that out, I'd like to ask for this resolution to do a study committee where I'll have some local input from local elected officials on that committee as well as legislators to try to address some of those and get those issues out of the way. So that's what the study committee does, and we'll conclude our work by the end of the year.
Yeah, and I know we have these local arguments from time to time when this comes back up for negotiations, and I know in my area we've had some, we'll just call them heated discussions over them.
Heated discussions and litigation, and that costs all the taxpayers money, and when we're all taxpayers, so I said, let's take this head on, and I've got both ACCG and GMA that are pushing to have this done, so
Okay.
hopefully we can resolve the issue.
And just so everybody understands the posture, it being a joint study committee, it is subject to crossover, so that's why we're,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
okay. So what's any questions for the author? All right, what's the will of the committee?
Motion do pass.
Got a motion from our President Pro Tem, second from Senator Beach. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Senator Burns, are you with us? All right, to the podium, sir. You've got Senate Resolution 221, another joint study committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to present this to the committee. This is a joint resolution, a resolution to form a joint study committee on election runoffs. If you may be aware that the House has two bills on runoffs that would relate to runoffs, House Bill 200 and House Bill 419. Mr. Chairman, I believe that this legislation is premature. We don't understand this challenge well. We need to do a study committee, a joint study committee, to make sure we understand the impact of election runoffs and alternatives if we so choose to consider. I'd appreciate favorable consideration.
Would you call this a punt?
This is an opportunity for us to understand a very difficult problem better, Mr. Chairman.
Fair enough. So it's a punt. Okay.
But just for the record, there are no election runoff bills in the Senate. Thank you very much.
All right, 4th and 9. Any questions for the author?
Appropriate time, I have a motion.
All right, what is the will of the committee?
I move to pass.
Well, got a motion from my vice chairman. Got a second from Senator Anderson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Now on to Senate Bill 39. Senator Jackson. So, just to kind of give everybody a little refresher course, you know, we had a hemp bill on the floor and it kind of got a little confusing through floor amendments and whatnot. So in the spirit of punting, we punted it back in here, and we have now Senator Jackson's bill that was already incorporated with Senator Kirkpatrick's bill. And so now we're going to incorporate Senator Kirkpatrick's bill with Senator Jackson's bill, and I believe Senator Summers had some stuff in there as well. And we got them all married together, hopefully in a less confusing way than when it left the floor the other day. And Senator Jackson, and we're operating off of LC 510361S.
That's correct.
That is correct. Okay. So Senator Jackson, the floor is all yours.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I will begin by saying I am going to need this body to help us perfect this to avoid what we saw on the floor. There are two things missing from the sub that hopefully someone will be willing to make a motion to amend. But let me just start with the beginning here in section 1. This just kind of sets us up, and this is going to be the first amendment that I'm hoping someone will make. Our good chairman, the appropriations chairman, asked that these funds go to the general fund. I'm in agreement with that. It just somehow did not make it into the sub. And so I would hope that on line 27 that we would have the amendment such that the funds would be appropriated to the general fund. So the rest of that, this should all look familiar to us as well, just so you know. We continue on and we define consumable hemp products. And then here's what we do, which I think is really important to the public health, and this is Senator Kay Kirkpatrick's real push. What we do is we make sure that by running a full certificate panel analysis on any of these consumable hemp products, that they have to pass standards. And you see the maximums listed here. Begins with line 55. That says, listen, you can't have heavy metals in it. You can't have extreme amounts of vitamin E oil. Like, there are all these things. We want to make sure that any hemp product that is sold on our shelves in this state are clean, that they're not contaminated. And so this full panel analysis that you see in section 2 helps to make sure that that happens. I know that there are questions about Delta-9, isomers, esters, THC. So let me just try to break that down for us. If you look beginning on line 40, all hemp products mean, and then you go to 43, all finished products with a concentration of Delta-9 THC, isomers of Delta-9 THC, and esters of not more than the federally defined THC level for hemp. The current federal definition defined is 0.03, so there cannot be more than 0.03 today in Georgia. Delta-9, which is the thing that people like to smoke, right? You cannot have more than 0.3 Delta-9. This is what we're making that very clear. That has to meet the federal limit, no matter, and it has to come from your hemp plant, right? So, and also we make it very clear that hemp products that meet that definition, so hemp products that have less than or 0.03 or less, that they will not be considered controlled substances because they are hemp. So that's what we do. We also acknowledge that there's industrial hemp products are separate and that we should treat them separately. Some of you might have a hemp rope that you use at your house. You might have hemp shirts. There might be hemp paint. There's a whole industry. I mean, I could do like a whole Forrest Gump Bubba thing on all the different products that you can make out of hemp. And so that we are treating as a separate category, all of those non-consumable hemp products. We want to make sure that they're not getting caught up in all these regulations. You don't need to be able to eat the rope, right? So we don't need those same regulations. We want them to be separate. If we move forward, the next page and pages that you have is the list of all of the lab results that have to be done on each consumable hemp product. There's also provision here for there to be a QR code so that you can look that up. And so any purchaser, any person who goes into a store to buy this hemp product, they'll be able to use their phone and pull up the panel analysis and to see this is how this hemp tested. It doesn't have any of these contaminants. It also means that when the Department of Ag goes to enforce this, that there's a full panel analysis that's been done that they can check to verify that this hemp product meets our definitions and meets our constraints. In Section 3, we've lowered the the cost for a license. We've capped that at $1,000 for growing so it's $50 per acre, and then if you grow more than, I don't know, whatever that math is, the most you're going to have to pay is $1,000. And then I'm expecting Senator Albers perhaps to help us perfect this too, but I hope you'll hear me out on this. For renewal purposes, we continue to say that a background check will not be required. However, we do say that for renewal purchases, and you'll see this lower down, that you have to sign an affidavit saying that you still meet the qualifications. So in the same way that a notary public, other types of entities, instead of having to do the background check over and over again, you can you can testify, right? You can sign an attestation saying that you still meet the requirements. Obviously, if that proves not to be true, then you have added an additional charge. You've caught another charge because you lied in your attestation, and you are no longer eligible to carry the license. So certainly we will accept friendly amendments from any of you all on this, but we hope that we've met that that concern by having the attestation piece. On lines 174 to 175, this is where you see us striking the language of a misdemeanor involving the sale or trafficking of a controlled substance. As we noted on the floor, in the state of Georgia, there is no such thing as a misdemeanor for trafficking. If you get caught for trafficking, you catch a felony. And so we wanted to make that consistent. But it's also important to note that this brings us into alignment with the federal regulations and the federal standards. So federally, if you have a misdemeanor, then it's not a concern about your license. And on the federal level, if you do have a felony involving a controlled substance, you have to prove that you've been clean for 10 years before you can even apply. So this is in line with the federal government standards, and also our Ag Commissioner has signed off on this. That's a lot of, do you want me to go through all of it, or should I take questions? How do you want me to do this, Mr. Chairman? I know it's a lengthy
Let's
bill.
stop there for now and see if we have any questions. Okay, let me recognize my vice chairman first.
I'm always curious, Senator, how'd you become such an expert in this field?
Well, thank you for your question. I've been very interested in hemp for quite some time because I do understand that this is the next phase for growing that will really open up a market for Georgia farmers. And so I want to make sure that there's access for as many Georgia farmers as we can. Because as I said, you can make rope, you can make paint, you can make all these things. And so because it's the potential for this industry is so great, I thought it might be important for me to become quite familiar with this.
Okay. Senator Hofstadler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things in there where we don't have a limit per package anymore, and we've taken out the GBI on line 294. But the other thing I want to say is on line 44, you correctly identify isomers and esters of Delta 9. Delta 8 is an isomer of Delta 9. It converts into the body to Delta 9, so essentially the same thing, and it's correctly identified there. On line 275, that's when we're talking about testing it. On line 44, we're talking about what's allowable in the product. It is not there. So it's like we're going to test over here and recognize it, but when you say the limit, there's nothing that says isomers or esters of Delta 9 THC, which means under this, Delta 9 THC convertibles in the body at unlimited amounts with no medical prescription or anything.
So I hadn't quite got there, but we can go to section 7. Is that where you are, Senator Hofstadler?
Yeah, line 275.
275.
He's saying it doesn't mention isomer, although we defined it earlier, so.
Defined it for testing, but not for in this section.
Right, okay, so,
That could be an oversight.
right, I mean, I think that
So do you have a problem with adding that, an isomer of Delta 9?
Let me just read it through. So you're asking on 275, in the event of a test sample reveals a Delta 9 THC concentration. Now this is back to where you're of more than the federally defined THC level of hemp, right? So we've already defined the federal limit, and the federal limit for hemp is Delta 9 THC, and it stops at 0.03. That's what we can constrain. And so that's what we're doing here.
So, but Delta 8 converts to Delta 9, it's essentially the same thing.
They're
So when you go to,
they're actually distinctly different things. So
they are
Delta,
different, but one turns into the other end of the body, which makes it the same thing. It's an isomer.
I understand what you're saying, but in terms of the federal definition, it's Delta 9 and it is a distinctly different thing.
So you're saying you don't want Delta 8 added to this because you want to have it there in unlimited amounts to convert to Delta 9
That's actually,
without a prescription?
well, we do have limitations. If you turn the next page to 281, line 281, we are very clear that there is a limitation. It's 25 milligrams per individual dose.
Right, and that's 25 by the people who actually, recommend this is listed as, they've got microdose, low, medium, high. 20 to 30 is what they say is a high dose. So I appreciate that, but it's not really much of a limit there.
So I believe.
It says you'll get confusion, slurring of speech, lack of coordination at 20 to 30 milligrams.
Sir, would you like to move that to 20 milligrams?
I would really just like us to recognize the isomer of Delta 8 as being the same, because in the body it essentially is the same.
But I want to be clear, Delta 8 is a separate, it's a different thing than Delta 9. It has different effects. It is a different product. Our federal government regulates the amount of Delta 9 that can be in a product. So if a Delta 8 gummy, let's say, if it tests and has more than 0.03 Delta 9 in it, then it would not be legal and would be removed from our shelves.
But if you test the blood of somebody after that Delta 8 is converted to Delta 9, they're going to have Delta 9 in the body.
I don't know if I can call on a witness to help with that.
Yeah, sure, if you'll come to the podium and introduce yourself. We do need to get some clarification here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Will Wingate. I'm CEO and founder of Second Century Ag. We're the only Georgia licensed hemp processor in the state. We're located in Ocilla, Georgia. Senator Hofstadter, to your question, I believe the reference that you're reading is a publication put out by one of the medical marijuana companies, and it lists 10 milligrams, 15 milligrams, 20 milligrams. That is for Delta 9 THC. Delta 9 THC is much stronger than Delta 8 THC. In fact, when both of them go through the body, they both convert to hydroxy 11. They don't both convert to Delta 9. So even though you may have a product that is a 20 milligram Delta 8 gummy, the effect is going to be roughly the same as a 9 milligram Delta 9 gummy. So what you're doing is you're limiting the ability of the body to process that much and get high by capping the milligrams at 25 milligrams of Delta 8.
Per gummy?
Correct.
25 per gummy?
Yes, sir.
Which isn't really, you take 10 gummies and you're at way above
And
that.
you could
Yes.
Take
If
10
you drink
10 drinks
100
of vodka.
beers, you're going to be really drunk.
And this is without a prescription or anything that we're letting that amount be.
Right. What I want to remind the committee is currently, right now, a 10-year-old can walk into a convenience store and buy a 100 milligram Delta 8 gummy. We're trying to put some rails on this industry. We're trying to get rid of the stuff from China and Mexico where you've had fentanyl, you've had heroin introduced it, and make this a clean product. And this is the only way we know how to do it, staying within federal law, is putting in the testing, putting in the QR code requirement, and then capping the amount of Delta 8 that you can put into a gummy at 25 milligrams. A Delta 9 gummy is going to be above 0.3% Delta 9 THC anyways.
Okay, do we have any further questions while we have this gentleman up? Senator Cowser? No. Not for him, for the author of the bill? Yeah. Okay, all right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Wait, you got one for him? All right, Senator Anderson.
How many gummies can you buy at one time?
According to this legislation, we're limiting the number of per package of 500 milligrams. Currently, you could buy 1,000 if you want to. You can buy 1,000 if you want to after this, but we're trying to keep it down as a dosage amount to 25 milligrams per serving and 500 milligrams per package.
So it'd be 20 per package.
20 per package.
Yes, sir.
All right, Senator Cowser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, so you're changing some of the licensing provisions to now allow a person with a misdemeanor controlled substance conviction to obtain a license. Who are we trying to protect here or to allow to get a license that's currently unable? Is this some individual that either had a license and it's revealed they got a misdemeanor, or somebody's trying to get a license? Why are we doing this?
Right, so we're doing it, I think in part because the misdemeanor just doesn't exist, right? And so we're cleaning that piece up. And then the second piece, there's no person, I don't know anybody personally who's trying to get a license. But this is bringing us in line with federal regulations, but it's also acknowledging that we know that there are people who have had brushes or run-ins with the law at a younger age for whatever reason. And we're saying, look, if you want to be able to farm hemp, then we're going to give you that second chance, but you're going to have to wait, and you're going to have to prove that you are clean and sober. So when I carried this bill individually, I talked about it as being a second chance hemp bill, because again, as I noted, my interest here is making sure that people who want to farm this stuff will have an opportunity to farm it. And they will be able to do that on the edible side, the consumable side, or on the industrial product side. And so there's no, I'm not doing a favor for anybody. I'm just simply trying to make sure that we don't punish people indefinitely when we already have really good information to indicate that if you can stay clean and sober without convictions for 10 years, that it's safe for you to enter this. And again, remember, all of this hemp that they are growing, it's going to be tested, right? Like, it has to meet the federal constraints. And so there are some checks and balances in this, even for somebody who might have a background that is a little less clean than mine or yours.
And my second question, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
You're setting up basically Georgia FDA, where we're going to be having to inspect all of these products to verify that they're safe for the children, et cetera. Do we do that in any other drug situation, and who's going to be doing all this inspecting?
Right. So the agriculture department, I guess let's take a step back. Right now, those products are on our shelves and they're not being regulated by anybody, right? And so you have products that are not clean, that could be anything. And so the Department of Agriculture has stepped in and has agreed to. This is why, if you look at when this gets enacted, they've asked for some time to build up this program, but they are ready to take this challenge on and to make sure that any product that is on the shelf in Georgia is safe for use. And so the department is ready to stand up that machine to take care of that, because we understand that we want our farmers to be able to grow hemp.
Are there no federal regulations already doing that, like the FDA does on other drugs?
No, right now, Delta-8 and hemp and products in general have remained unregulated beyond the Delta-9, 0.03 limitation. But yes, the FDA has chosen at this point not to step in.
Thank you. Are there any, Senator Anderson?
You're saying that if I stay clean for 10 years, then I can buy some gummies?
No, you can get a license.
No.
A license for gummies.
I'm saying if you stay clean for 10 years, then you can apply for a license to grow hemp. That's what I'm saying. And I'm saying that if you have a hemp farm and you want to pass that on from generation to generation, but you have a child, a son or a daughter, who has been arrested for felony possession at some point along the way, and you want to pass that hemp farm on to them, right now as it stands, you could not do that because they couldn't get a license. And what I'm saying, though, is that if your son or daughter has proven themselves to be clean for 10 years, and you've got that hemp farm that you want to pass on to them, you'll be able to do that because they'll be able to qualify for a license. This is all about second chances.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take a question from Senator Roberts and then Senator Watson, and we're going to, for sake of time, we're going to see what the will of the committee is. But here's the kind of my thoughts. This thing's got to get out of standing committee if we're going to do anything. So for sake of time and for sake of confusion, if there's going to be any amendments offered, I'm only going to accept friendly amendments that the author has asked for. From there, when it gets to the floor, you obviously can do whatever you want. But just so that we're not confused like we were when we left the floor the other day, if this bill were to make it to the floor, I've got to get this out of standing if we're going to do anything. If y'all want to have limits on Delta 8 or Delta 9, or we want to let 8-year-olds keep buying this stuff, if they are, I don't know, but they can, we've got to do something. So in order to do something, it's got to get out of standing committee. And we all have other committees. So let's get moving. Senator Robertson, go.
Senator Jackson, how does someone prove they've been clean for 10 or 12 years?
Well, it's really they've stayed out of the law's trouble, right? So they haven't gotten another felony. They haven't been arrested
So
for
if they
those type
haven't been
things.
arrested and not necessarily clean, right?
Right,
Because
yeah, thank you.
There are a
That's-
lot of people out there that aren't clean that have never been arrested or
That's fair. That's a
incarcerated.
fair, yes.
Okay.
They need to have not been involved with the law.
All right, Senator Watson.
I'll be real quick. If you turn to page 15, if you look at the top there in bold letters, it says, "Sale of consumable hemp products to individuals under 21 years of age is prohibited by law." That's what the essence of this bill is. We're trying to thread the needle here. The FDA, in my opinion, as they have done, they have failed us on not just this occasion, but on other occasions by keeping marijuana in the Schedule 2 area where it is, or Schedule 1, I should say. And it's not been studied and not been done that. So we have people in our state that are buying drugs over the counter, totally unregulated, and whether it's Delta 8 or whatever, it is just not right. And that, to me, is the most important part, and I agree with moving on. I'll be happy to make a due motion pass.
All right, now's the right time. I got a motion due pass from Chairman Watts, and I got a second from Senator Harbison. Is there any?
Mr. Chairman, if you would, I would ask for some friendly amendments to this bill before we move to the
Are
floor.
there any friendly amendments from the committee?
Line 27, we need to replace the department with the general fund in order to fit with Chairman Tillery's requests.
All right, I've got a motion from Senator Butler to strike on line 27, the department, and replace with general fund. I've got a second from Senator Jones. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, hand count. All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. All right, I got 10, and noes 6. Okay, 10-6. Motion passes. All right, any other friendly amendments?
I'm certainly open to Senator Albers if he wants to add the background checks or if that decision is okay. Trying to avoid the floor, but that's fine. My last request for a friendly amendment is that for small business owners who are currently selling these products, when this law is enacted, it would immediately make their products illegal and they would have to throw away or dispense of a lot of merchandise. And so I would ask that Section 7 become effective on January 1st, 2024, like other sections of this bill.
I believe that's already on line 20, or line 403.
Yes, line 4, so it would be,
So you're trying to take it from 24 to,
no, I would like Section 7 to be included in that.
I got you.
So line 402 would be Section 6 and Section 7 of this act become effective. But it also means that you have to fix line 401. But this is it's good for small businesses. This way we don't say to small businesses, you got to throw all away your stuff that we've allowed you to have.
all right, what's the will of the committee?
repeat what we're doing?
No. Is
January 2024.
nobody's making that amendment. Is anybody offering that amendment? All right. Then, any further discussion on the bill?
I've tried.
Senator Robertson.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm disheartened and disappointed that we've got a bill that became a Frankenstein or other language I could probably use, and I wouldn't, not to disappoint my wife and children, but on the floor, and we brought it here in what seems to be a quickly thrown together summary, and then we're making amendments in the Standing Rules Committee. And while I respect everybody on this committee, Mr. Chair, and I respect your feeling in this area and the time, I think we're dealing with something that is extremely dangerous and fragile. But what I've heard is it's for small businesses and for the children. And I don't buy that. And I understand
Okay.
people talking
Okay.
about 10 and 8-year-olds coming in and buying it when we have no record of 10 and 8-year-olds buying it.
Okay, thank you. We'll grandstand later. Senator Huffstetter.
The original bill by the senator from the 32nd did two things. It said you had to be 21, and it took away the loophole for Delta 8, and I think I probably even signed on to it. So this is doing one of them. The other one, it's still leaving the loophole out there, so I won't support it.
Okay, fair enough. All right, all in favor of the bill, raise your hand. As amended. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I got 6 yeses. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got 9 noes. Motion fails. All right, thank you, Senator. All right, we're going to adjourn out of Standing Committee, and we're rolling into Rules Committee. Let's try to move quickly here. We've got, we're going to be trying, the committee, this is for you. I want y'all to try to understand. Tomorrow, we're going to gear towards education type bills. So as you're thinking about what bills to pick, would steer you towards those, and I'll help steer you along as we go. So, Senate Bill 28, Senator Dixon. Are you here? All right, to the podium. Be brief, brother, be brief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I bring Senate Bill 28 before you today. It was an act that was created in 2002, back when we were able to do population bills. And basically what it stated was any county that was over 800,000 at the time in 2002, which was only Fulton County, the legislature could not set the salary for the chairman or the commissioners in that county. Now it affects Gwinnett County as well, so there's 2 counties that are affected. And I am looking to, this bill just repeals that act.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the author? All right, Senate Bill 32, Alyssa's Law, we've heard. That'd be a great bill for tomorrow, dealing with children and education. Senate Bill 34, Senator Parent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This Senate Bill 34 comes out of a study committee that we did over the interim, and essentially it would put in place some important regulations around food safety and unfair business practices related to third-party delivery apps for restaurants. Happy to answer any questions the committee
Any
might
questions? Seeing none, thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
All right, Senators, SB 46, Senator Huffstetter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill, as I stated in committee, is because there's been a huge rise in syphilis. 25 years ago, it was almost like polio. It was almost gone. Once I brought the bill on health, and those members in health know it because we'd seen an increase. Mississippi had a 900% increase in children born with syphilis. Unlike some things, you are likely not going to survive the birth, and if you do, you're going to be a ward of the state. I won't go into all the stuff, but it's really bad, lung, bones, brains, nerves. We want to test this on all pregnant women when they're first seen at 28 to 32 weeks and at birth, and other than patient refusal, it would mandate testing.
All right, SB 62, Senator Summers.
Mr. Chairman.
SB 62, that's my bill on homeless, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to amend it on the floor, or amend it, the committee makes no difference. I'm going to strike Section 3 from homeless, and hopefully we'll move forward on it.
Okay. Any questions for the author? Thank you. Senate Bill 76, Senator Merritt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. A bill just to expand low-cost insulin copays to our state employees. So it will cap the copay at $35 for a 30-day supply, and at, hold on, 90-day supply, we're looking at, I lost my page here, at $105. So trying to keep our employees happy and healthy.
All right. Any questions? Thank you. All
Thank you,
right.
Mr. Chairman.
Next is Senate Bill 86. That's my bill. Simply allows students to access their Hope Career Grant funds before their 30-hour requirement is up. So the intent is to get these kids their credentials and get them working a little bit quicker, get them into the workforce. Any questions? All right. SB 91, Senator Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 91 simply extends when the injury trust fund is going to be absorbed into the Department of Insurance. Currently, it's the end of this year. If this bill passes, it would extend it 2 years to 2025 to give them time to wrap up as many claims as they can before it's absorbed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senate Bill 97, Anna Vitarde, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill basically creates the Georgia Cyber Command under GEMA to address cybersecurity in state government.
Okay. Any questions? All right, back page, Senate Bill 100, Senator Hatchett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is I'm bringing on behalf of Governor Kemp. It deals with unsecured judicial releases. It basically codifies the best practices we see across the state right now. It says that a judge can't do an unsecured release unless they look at the criminal history first. And then it also says that if you've had a bail jumping charge or you've failed to appear in the last 10 years, you're not eligible for an unsecured judicial release on your own recognizance.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right. SB 107, Izzy's Law, Senator Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an aquatic safety bill. I appreciate your favorable consideration. We've reviewed it in the committee before. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Seeing no questions. Senator Tillery's got 131. Senator Tillery with us. Came out of Children and Families. Senator Cowser, you want to cover that one for us?
Chairman, I could actually speak quickly to 131, 133, and 134.
Okay.
They're a package of bills dealing with foster care dependency proceedings and termination of parental rights. It's a Lieutenant Governor's initiative. The first one deals with service, 131, service of notice of these proceedings on interested parties. 133 tries to give guidance as to what a juvenile court judge can do from the bench when he's ruling on these cases, what he has to take into consideration and the boundaries of his rulings. And 134 that I'm carrying deals with expediting the use of medical records instead of live medical testimony in these dependency proceedings and termination of parental rights proceedings.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Senator.
Sure.
Senator Beach, 132.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The U.S. Secretary of State has 5 countries that are on, they call particular concern, which is our enemies. And what this bill does is says those 5 countries are not allowed to buy our farmland or any property within 25 miles of a military base here in the state of Georgia.
Okay, any questions? All right, thank you. 132. All right, we did 133, 134, 135, Senator Kirkpatrick. Our first ever chairwoman of Children and Families
Thank
Committee.
you. We're going to load y'all up from Children and Families. 135 has to do with court-ordered genetic testing, and it expands the labs, accredited labs that can be used, and it also makes court-ordered genetic testing signed under penalty of perjury, self-authenticating in paternity actions.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to go ahead and do 155?
Yes.
I know you got a committee to go chair.
I do, and you've heard this before. This is about clarifying the definition of a public safety animal and simplifying the degrees of harm due to that to eliminate a conflict in the current law.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. Senator Burns, you're back, 137.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Senate Bill 137. It's the expansion of tuition equalization grants. It simply allows preparatory institutions that are fully accredited to offer, to have eligibility for tuition equalization grants if they are in the state of Georgia on or before January the 1st, 2021.
Okay. All right, Senate Bill 138. Senator Williams, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And what's your favorite flavor of gummies?
I like them all, as long as they're under 25 milligram.
Okay. This bill has to do with the vacancies created in the sheriff's department. When a sheriff is removed or the vacancy occurs, the chief deputy, if he has one or they have one, would assume the position. If they do not, then the chief judge of the Superior Court of that circuit would make the appointment. And this just makes sure that no non-elected sheriff can appoint someone else and someone becomes sheriff who's never been elected.
Any questions? All right, Senator Steele, are you with us? There you are, 160.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be brief. This is an administrative funding bill. At the conclusion of 22, the previous administration at the Department of Labor forgot to renew a carve-out that allowed for the funding of this portion of the unemployment portion. It's the employer portion, 2.7%. Always has been collected since 2000. They let that lapse, and so 0.06%, which totals about $10 million per year for administrative purposes, would go to the DOL budget. They lost that money this year to be able to run this program, and they're asking for it to be renewed starting in January of next year.
Careful talking about percents in this committee, sir.
Yes, sir.
You go south quick. Okay, any questions for the author? Seeing none. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Senate Bill 216, that's me. So this bill simply allows the department to extend respite care past 72 hours. Respite care is simply auxiliary services for foster parents. If you want to come in and basically sub in and do their laundry or allow them to go on a date night, go on a small vacation, you can come in and do that. That's considered respite care. And we're giving the department the ability to extend that past 72 hours, which is in current statute. So basically, it'll be on a case-by-case basis. Any questions? Okay. SR 82, Senator Summers. Busy man.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. SR 82 is a bill supported and brought to me by ACCG regarding counties being able to waive taxes on properties they've had on the books for many, many, many years and work with each individual property, not just at one time, just each individual property.
Okay, thank you. All right, SR, excuse me, SR 175, that's my joint study committee on dual enrollment. This actually is coupled back with my bill on SB 86, where we're going to allow them to access those Hope Career Grant funds before the 30 hours. I do want to come back and do a study committee after the first few months of us allowing it, but we're going to, the point of that is to make sure we have a sustainable program and something that is going to be done the right way. So, any questions from me? Seeing none. All right, for sake of time, and we've kind of, I've already given y'all instructions on what we need to pick. I'm just gonna tell y'all what we're gonna pick, and that way nobody's wasting any picks. Okay. Senator Alberts has picked 86, Senate Bill 86. Anybody want to pick Senate Bill 46? My vice chairman, Senate Bill 32. Senator Randy, you've been froggy today. Let's jump on that one. Senate Bill 107, Beach. You like that? You like that one? Senate Bill 216. Yeah, that was a good one. Senate Bill 135. Any takers? All right, I'll take it. Senate Bill 134. Albers, you're getting hot today. Senate Bill 133. 34, you can have that one. Senate Bill 134, we'll take that. Senate Bill 133 is a package deal, so you got to take them both. 34, that deals with food. We're dealing with kids. Although kids do eat.
Feed the kids.
My kids eat a lot. We're saving that one. Senate Bill 131, I think is what Madam Chair was saying. 131, and then 76 is a good bill. And, SR 175, that goes right along with my S86. 216, great pick. All right. So here's what we got for the floor tomorrow. Senate Bill 32, Senate Bill 46, Senate Bill 86, Senate Bill 107, Senate Bill 131, Senate Bill 133, Senate Bill 134, Senate Bill 135, Senate Bill 216, and SR 175. Got a motion from Senator Ann Vittarde, second from Senator Beach. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Meeting adjourned. Get to your committees.